Hi everybody, my name is Mary Feaster and I chose checklists as my data collection technique. I chose this one because this is something I've used before. I teach kindergarten, so some of the other data collection techniques didn't really apply to what my kiddos do. So I chose this one to focus on because I thought it's appropriate for what I do and I have some experience with it. So first question was, how would you describe this data collection technique? So according to Johnson, Leedy, and Ormrod, a checklist is a list of behaviors, characteristics, skills, or other entities that a researcher is interested in investigating. So essentially, a behavior, so that could be, the student sits in his chair, the student does not sit in his chair, or a characteristic, the student listens, the student does not listen. Skills, the student is able to add numbers, the student is not able to add numbers. So any of those things are things that a researcher might be interested in investigating. That's what kind of makes up a checklist. So checklists provide the researcher with data to show whether or not the characteristic was present. So essentially, was it there? Was it not there? Were they able to? Were they not able to? That's exactly what a checklist does. The thing with this is, though, the data is not usually detailed, but it's a super quick way for teachers to get information. So literally you're looking, you're saying, is it present? Is it not present? It makes it very quick for teachers to be able to observe a certain behavior or characteristic. So for example, we just did a sorting unit in my class, so I figured I could make a quick example of a checklist. Were they able to sort by color? Yes. Were they able to sort by size? No. Were they able to sort by shape? Yes. So quick and easy. I'm basically letting you know that the child was either able to do that behavior or skill or they weren't. So what processes and procedures are unique to this technique? So I have to be honest, I looked through all of the different information that was provided this week. I read the chapter in our book from Mills. I even did my research on my own, but I didn't find a ton of information on checklists. So, what I've gathered is basically from my own experience and from the research that was provided that I could get some information from. So, to me, the things that I found that were unique were in this type of observation, there are characteristics and behaviors that are already decided. That's what you're observing. It's not like an observation, a teacher observation, where you're writing down pretty much whatever you see. This is strictly, pre-chosen, predetermined. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're not looking for, which I think makes that unique to some of the other or data collection tools. And this also provides you with objective data. So it's not subjective in the sense where, the student did this to this extent, or, it's basically, again, it's saying yes or no. It's definitive. It was there. It wasn't there. There's really no way to argue about whether or not something was present or absent. So you don't have to worry about the subjective aspect of things. Like if one researcher observed it compared to another, would the answers be different? Probably not, because it's objective. And then the other thing I thought was unique with this, again, is it has to be pre-made. It has to be prepared prior to use. You have to know what you're looking for before you go and do it. It's not like the observation tool where you can go and, again, write down whatever you see. Here you have to already know what you're going and looking for. You have to have the checklist made so you're prepared. Is it qualitative or quantitative? It's quantitative. So again, there's no subjective part. There's no note taking. There's no annotations. You're not elaborating. It's just simply a yes or a no, which then turns into quantitative data. This many yeses, this many nos. It's representative of a number. The types of questions that this technique could best answer. So things like, was the student able to perform the skill? Like I just showed you, yes or no, they were or they weren't. Was the behavior observed? The student sat in their seat, the student did not sit in their seat. The student walked down the hallway, the student did not walk down the hallway. Or things like, did the student complete step 1, step 2, step 3, etc. So if you give them 4-step directions and you're looking to see, did the student walk to their table first? If they did, yes. Did the student take their pencil box out second? If they followed step 2, you check yes. So again, it's typically those 1 or 2, yes or no answers, but it's all those types of questions that are literally going to be a yes or a no. It's not, we're not writing and taking notes, yes, they did walk to their table, but blah, blah, blah. That's not what a checklist is. So some strengths with this, I think definitely is the fact that it's so quick. You're literally looking, you're checking, you're checking, you're checking. It doesn't require a lot of thought on the teacher. It doesn't require really much time at all. You can literally hold your checklist on a clipboard, walk around, check off, check off, check off while they're working. It doesn't take a lot of time. Again, I already touched on this, but it's objective information. It's not subjective. Weaknesses, that's also, I guess, could be a weakness, is that it's not overly detailed. It's not subjective. So it is just a yes or a no. It doesn't really provide, if somebody else was looking at your checklist, it doesn't really provide them with a ton of information on, okay, the student couldn't sort, but why couldn't they sort, or what happened? It doesn't give them any extra information. It also, you're kind of limited in the number of items that you can observe at once. If you have 17 things that you're trying to observe and you have, 20 kids, that's completely overwhelming. You're kind of limited in the number of items that you can observe. But again, you can observe a few, but very quickly. So again, I think it has enough or an equal amount of strengths and weaknesses for sure. So concerns about this in terms of validity, reliability, and ethical. So I didn't have a ton of concerns. To me, the validity, I just went back to, again, like there's no detail or explanation involved in this checklist. So again, if somebody comes back and looks, if you're sharing your information or whatever, or even for yourself, you're going back and looking at it and you're like, okay, I saw that Sally couldn't sort, but I didn't write down why she didn't sort. Then you could run into some trouble with, okay, I have this down, how valid is my information if I didn't necessarily add further information or further explanation. Um, Again, not necessarily always going to be a problem, but I think it could potentially be a problem. And then reliability, again, there's no detail or explanation involved. If you're trying to use this data to explain, you might need to go into more detail to explain, okay, this many kids could not sort, but this is a common pattern I saw. So you don't really get that with the checklist. There's also no continuum with it. It's not, okay, she did it a little bit. She, if you had a scale of like never, sometimes, always, often, those continuum type, like survey type things. A checklist is not that. A checklist is two choices: yes, no, present, absent. So again, reliability, maybe they were able to kind of sort, but then they didn't. You can run into some trouble there, I think, in that gray area. And then ethics, I think with this, again, you might need to incorporate another data collection technique to provide further information. So again, Sally couldn't sort, but maybe that's because Sally was able to sort by color, but not by size, because she wanted to sort by color and size together. You might just need more information in order to encompass, exactly what this child was doing and what they were able to do, what they were not able to do. So I think you just could run into some troubles there. Again, not huge concerns. I think a checklist is good for what it's meant to be good for. And I think, in combination with other data collection techniques, it would be fine. So again, I didn't have a ton of information that I found on this, but I hope what I shared was helpful. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to reach out. And I'm looking forward to hearing what everybody else's data collection techniques look like. Thanks.